With the new game mode that came out today, Wargaming released 2 additional tanks into the game. One being the Waffle, which I'll cover in another video, and the other being the brand new Tier 9 Chieftain Premium, which you see right here. To get this tank, you need to essentially grab some of Wargaming's rebranded loot boxes for a chance to pick it up. These can be earned by playing the game mode, which is the Waffentrager Legacy, or buying some of these engineer gate keys, which gives you a chance at picking up the tank. They actually released the drop rates right here, and I believe it was a 2.4% chance to get any of these premium tanks, and you have a guaranteed drop at 50. Each one of those keys is going for $1 a piece right now on the premium store. The new FV4201 Chieftain Proto, as it's officially named, comes with a 120mm gun with great pen at 262 and 310 for the gold rounds. Fairly long reload at 9.7 seconds with how I have it set up. Keep in mind I do have Brothers in Arms as well as a rammer on this tank. And some pretty long aim time. Overall, aside from the pen, the gun isn't exactly anything super special to write home about. The only thing that I found that is really special about this tank is the turret armor. Frontally, this turret is nearly impossible to pen, with the only exceptions being this commander's hatch, which is also quite tricky to get around on, especially if you're playing hull down. The hull armor is quite weak and easily penned unless you have some extreme angles, and the maneuverability in this tank is relatively poor, even with a turbo. As you can see, it is pretty angled already, but even if you're facing one head-on like this, even at a relatively good distance, you're still going to be able to pen this. Anything that goes above it's going to be able to pen it. The only real way it's usable is if you're using a hull down, and then people will be able to bounce off this. The lower plate obviously is a massive glaring weakness, and this tank really only works well playing hull down. We've got a couple games coming up to show you what this tank can do, and at the end I'll also break down my opinion on whether you should pick this tank up, or perhaps wait for it to go into the premium store, or get another tank. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The first game I have for you is on Manor High Line, South Side, and Top Tier, with a mixture of Tier 9s and then Tier 8s. Do keep in mind in these replays, I played about 10 tanks in this game before I set up this video. I wanted to get it out as quickly as possible. So these aren't the best games in the world. I'd consider these more typical games that you can expect if you're playing this tank and you get in a good position and you do decent in it. But anyway, I decided to head south. I know that I can get into any of these hull downs right here, and I'll be able to do a pretty decent job against the enemy. I decided to grab this one and try to see if I can find an early shot right here. With Renegade and the SMV poking out, or going forward, excuse me, and not lighting anything, I'm thinking I'm not going to get any early bleed, and I decided to move up with him. Fortunately, that Tornwagen showed up just a couple seconds too late. Should have been a little more patient, and would have been able to get a shot in on him. Ended up taking a little bit of bleed in the cross, but it's not the end of the world. For whatever reason, the Renegade decided to play here, which I don't recommend anybody ever do. If you're going to be in this position, you either have to make the cross or you have to just leave, because all you're going to do here is you're just going to die to the hull down tanks here and whatever decides to poke you over there, and you're not going to be able to be effective, especially with a tank like the Renegade. So I decided to just nix that position. I'm not going to be able to do anything. Poke up, see if I can get some damage. Round goes straight through the KV4's lower plate, no problem with that. I'm trying to be careful because I do know there are TDs up here. As you can see, one of them is bouncing in right there. And then it's just a matter of waiting until I think I'm going to have another opportunity to take a shot. Unfortunately, now this lane is completely blocked off. Nobody can rotate over into here, because the VK decided to sit there and die. Not sure what he was thinking. And the Renegade's still sitting there. He's lost half his HP. Hasn't got much, if any, bleed on these guys either. So, don't play this position. It's not worth it. Wasn't able to get a shot on that VK. I'm gonna look over, see if I can get one on the SU. See the TVP's lit. Go for a shot on him. By the graces of God, I'm able to hit that, and it pens. But that outlines a little bit of the rougher gun handling that this tank has. I see the KV-4 is poking up, and I wasn't angled correctly, so I wasn't able to get the gun depression I needed to shoot at him. Kind of lucky he missed too, because he could have gotten around on my lower plate. He decides to peek again for some reason. Shot goes low, hits the dirt. At this point, I'm just sitting waiting for shots. Not really much I can do. Can't leave this position, and I can't push into these guys. There's way too many tanks. Fortunately, the team folded a little bit. These two guys died for absolutely no reason. Didn't help the SMV up there. He got taken out as well. Tried to get a cheeky shot on that Tornwagen, but there just wasn't enough for me. And VK pokes out, able to get a shot in on him. Wasn't quite able to line up a shot on that KV-4. I do see the G-Sword crossing, and I get a little bit concerned about that, but wasn't fast enough to get a shot on him either. See the KV-4 poking, nice aim. It goes high, but luckily with the gray pen of this tank, I didn't really have to worry about it, and it penned him anyway. VK over poked, I'm able to shoot him, he bounces off me. Went to line up a shot on the KV-4, but just wasn't meant to be on that one either. I am worried about this G-Sword peeking me, so I'm trying to be cautious of that, but game's pretty much over at this point. All of my teammates are dead, and it is very much garbage time right now. Able to put around in the Chieftain. Try to use him as cover. So this SMV just goes right around me, and I'm able to kill him. And I believe I was able to get one more round out. And boom. And that's the end of the game. Wasn't a perfect game. Like I said, haven't played a whole lot in this. I wanted to get this out as quick as possible. But that highlights just how good this tank is. Hold down, I was able to do 3,200 damage. Was able to block 2,400 damage. And I really could have held out this position with a little bit of support for virtually the entire game. Had some of our tanks not died over here, and they were able to rotate. They were able to play this north side and potentially win that. For the second game in the Chieftain, we have Empire's Border, and I decided to go to the southwest section of the map. And my plan is to try to use the hull downs over here and play that way. And I see a good amount of my teams coming with me as well. So when I talked about the mobility earlier, this certainly isn't the slowest tank in the game, so you don't have to worry about that. I am going around 39-40 the entire time with the turbo, but certainly isn't the fastest tank, and don't expect to try to beat a lot of other tanks and getting into a hold down. I'm just looking around there to see who is coming with me and where the entirety of my team is deploying to. So I hop up over to this rock, or this, not this rock, this ledge, excuse me, get hull down, And it's basically going to be a fight of cupola shots right now. Line one up on that Chieftain. Not able to pen him though. And then it's waiting for the reload, which is definitely quite long in this tank. Second Chieftain pops up and I was overpoked right there. Kick around in the lower plate. He pens me easily, but I am able to pen him as well. Go for another cupola shot. I crit him and he crit me, which just goes to show how difficult this cupola is to hit, especially in a hold down situation. It's not that big of a weak point that you have to be concerned about. At this point, I don't want to keep playing that little poke fight, and we're not going to be able to do much from it. I see that there's a pretty big medium push in the northeast corner, as well as it looks like our heavies are overmatched right there, so I decided to make the rotate. Get around into this Chieftain, break his turret, so either he's going to look at me and die to the concept, or he's going to do that and still die to the concept. And at this point I just know I have to make a play. I considered driving south and helping these guys, but I see that it's not really worth it at that point. I'm not going to be able to do too much, so I decided to flank around, see if I can catch them from behind while these guys move to hold it. I overpeaked this corner, wasn't expecting both the Chieftains to be sitting there. I take a free round for it and try to go for a lower play shot on that Chieftain, but accuracy was not my friend and bounced right off him. Do a little peek, try to get one of them, try to bait out some shots. Chieftain shoots at me and bounces, and I see that 50 TP, he bounces, and I'm able to snap his lower plate. At this point I see the Chieftain pushing me. Not really a good angle that I can retreat from. I just have to kind of play this little indent, or not indent, little terrain and do what I can. Able to put a tracking shot into that Chieftain. He shoots me. Man decides to repair after it. I ask for help, and that Concept 1B, bless his soul, is coming to help me so I don't die here for free. He takes a shot at me, bounces off my upper plate, and I'm able to pen him. 50 TP, pushes around, shoots at the Concept 1B, and I'm able to put around in him. Concept then goes absolute man mode, pushes around the corner, and is able to take the Chieftain out. I make sure he has plenty of room to get around me. See, he shoots, take a round into his side, and he is gone. Now I'm gonna move over, try to help this SDRV with the Chieftain. Obviously he can kill him, but in a situation like this with a very losable game, pretty close, I want him to lose as little HP as possible. Fortunately, he doesn't lose any. Takes him out. And now I have to rotate in a position that I'm able to help these guys out, as they're going to be taking shots in the back from the T-49 and the E-50. And this is where the mobility of the tank will hamper you a little bit. Obviously, I'm going pretty quick, heading down that hill, but then turning because I now have to go back up this side to be able to go to the mid and support these guys. I'm going to lose all of my speed, and that Concept 1B is just going to be able to rotate so much faster than I am. Going up this hill, I'm going 19 miles an hour, and do keep in mind I have a turbo in this as well. I think this is really highlighting the lack of mobility. I mean, the Concept, we were in roughly the same position. He was able to rotate into where he needed to be, kill an enemy tank before I was even able to get close. And he was able to get some bleed. Try to take a snap at that T-49. Didn't work out for me, unfortunately. And I know that I have to get my HP into this fight somehow. So I decide to push in on this ridge and try to get a hold down position. See the T-49. And look to line up a shot. Fortunately, that one whiffs. And here we are. Make a misplay right here. Could have gone towards that rock. Tried to get a little hold down. And just trying to take a shot on that. Udez, unfortunately, wasn't able to hit him. So I gotta move to some sort of position with cover before he kills me. T-49 pops around into me. I'm snap one into him. Now I've got to keep the back of my tank secure so I don't get killed by that Udez. And I just gotta sit and watch the T-49, and hopefully these guys will be able to rotate into a position. Char pushes me, I kill him. T-49 fortunately kills me. Overall, after playing a few games in this tank, I've got the opinion that it is woefully mediocre. I'd certainly label it as balanced. It's not overpowered, not something that you're going to have to, aside from being hull down, have to be terrified of playing against it. That being said, with the current system of how to get it, I really don't think that it's worth your money. If you're going through the loot box system essentially that they have here, you're looking at spending, I'd say, a minimum of $50 for the chance to get this, especially, and that's if you have all of the other tanks in here. If you don't, you've got an equal chance of getting one of these two as well as these 10 tanks right here. So there's a reasonable chance that you could spend $100, $200 and you're going to end up with some tier 8s from over here and the KV4. But you might not get this tank. You might be lucky, get it on your first try, get it on your first box even. But you might not, and you might be going into this bottomless pit, spending money, gambling to try to pick this thing up. I'm not a fan of loot boxes. I think that it's a manipulative tactic that takes advantage of the serotonin drops that gambling gives, opening packs gives, like Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering and things like that, to try to get you to spend extra money on something, and something that, in my opinion, is pretty mediocre. If you're looking for a tank with this playstyle, and you don't want to spend this kind of money, just look at grabbing something like the AE Phase 1. It might not be as good a hold down, but these tanks, in my opinion, are pretty comparable, and I think that you can do everything that the Chieftain doesn't do well better in this tank, and the only thing that Chieftain does have over this is a little better time playing hold down. But overall, to be honest with you, I just can't recommend buying this tank in the current implementation. I'm sure we'll definitely see it again, either in the premium shop, where you can just buy it outright and you don't have to worry about the loot box system, or in the Christmas boxes, which have a much, much, much higher value than these engineering boxes do. But that's all I have for you today. Take care, and Godspeed.